Amaro, it's not just for the joy of drinking something bitter. I mean, it's also called a digestivo or a digestive, and it
Yes.
truly does help with digestion.
I'm Wendy Holloway, and this is Flavor of Italy, sharing the very best of Italian food and wine, lifestyle, and culture. It's Lolly Martin and myself, Wendy Holloway, and we're talking about bitter in Italian cuisine. And just by way of a little bit of background, when the founder of the artichoke-based liqueur Cynar,
Ah.
and if you look at the bottle, I mean, you're familiar with that, Lolly. It's got that picture of an
Do you have
artichoke on
it?
it.
I tried to buy some yesterday
Yeah.
because I normally don't have the bottle at home because I will just go out to bar. And they said that it's actually not easy to find in the shops.
Oh,
Did you?
I can't say that I've ever tried. I would normally get it. Now they make like lots of different cocktails with it and stuff. But regardless, so I did a Substack post back in March
Yeah,
and entitled Italy's Bitter Obsession.
I love
And
that. I
so,
post. It's
yeah.
so true.
And
It's my
but the
obsession.
reason I was inspired was that the creator of this artichoke-based liqueur, Cynar, died right around then at 103 years old. So I
I
guess
have
it's a
to get a bottle for my house now.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But
We nothing else except that he invented and drank Cynar.
yeah, yeah,
That's what I
exactly.
need to know.
Yeah, well, that was his thing. His name is Reno Dondi Pinton. And but the bottom line is that this whole bitter flavor profile
Yeah.
is really entrenched in Italian cultural heritage. And when we think of like the monasteries and the monks, and they're picking herbs and roots and everything and making these secret concoctions, which you can usually, yeah, there you go, which you can usually buy in some of these different places. And it's a very common thing to make them at home. I do. And I
Yes.
have this one I pulled out of the freezer.
Oh,
I've got to
Wendy.
get so I don't know if you can see that it's actually,
Green. Is it green?
it's bright green.
Is that from walnuts?
No,
No.
this one, that one too, which is noci, is made from arugula.
No, Wendy, please send me that recipe. That is
Yeah.
gorgeous.
It's a typical thing from, oh gosh, the island. Yeah.
Just
It's
to
a
compare,
typical,
like, look, it's exactly the color of arugula. It's gorgeous.
yeah.
And what does
So
it taste like?
it tastes bitter
Yeah.
and sweet, and it tastes like what it is. Now, the thing with these, you keep
Gorgeous.
them in the freezer
Yeah.
because, do you make them, Lolly?
I've
These
made
liqueurs?
noccino and limoncello, and I've made like limecello, but I have never seen nor made that, and I am so inspired.
Well, yeah, I make a lot of them. So the alcohol we use, which everybody, this is available on grocery store shelves because every self-respecting Italian makes liqueurs. You could send your 6-year-old into the grocery store and say,
You can
I mean, it's like, not that I have, but it's 95% alcohol. It does not freeze. So then when you put, just for anyone trying to, who wants to make it, I mean, that jar I just showed you
Yeah,
is so bright green. We just shoved so much arugula in it.
arugula.
You pour this on it, and then it sits for like a month in a
Yeah,
closet. And then when you bring it out and you pull out the arugula,
yeah.
it looks like albino arugula
Ah,
because it has
it's
completely zapped
stripped
out
the
the
chlorophyll.
color. Yeah. And that's what happens with, so I make it with bay leaves
Uh-huh.
and all kinds of greens. And with the bay leaves, again, it's that rich, beautiful green,
Yeah,
and it's sweet because then the last step is you add the sugar
right.
syrup to it.
You're posting this recipe after the call, right?
Uh,
Because going to make this.
oh,
I have,
okay.
as always, one of the greens that we can get year round here in the north of Italy is arugula because they grow it in the greenhouses. And so I always have that on hand.
Yeah.
So I'm ready. Oh,
So,
love it.
just a funny little fact that, okay, I've lived here over 40 years. So, my mother died when I was 11.
Oh,
I
Wendy.
was living in Pittsburgh, this little town called Oakmont outside of Pittsburgh.
Okay.
So then my oldest sister had gone to college. This is really
Mhm.
deviating, but still, I had a
I'm
little sister.
fascinated.
And
We,
then I had this other sister, 6 years older than I am, who
yeah.
had this Italian American friend, Susie Pernice. And,
Okay.
so she organized so that we would have somewhere to go at lunch, that every Wednesday, we would go to the Pernice's house, and we went in there. I loved it, but they had all this Italian music playing. They were making wine in the basement, and the weirdest thing was they were, like, picking weeds and cooking with weeds, arugula and all these wonderful greens,
Was it
and it's
growing in the yard? Did they have
yeah.
rucola growing in the yard?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Love it.
yeah, and,
Dandelion
just
green.
other, dandelion greens, all this stuff, but for a, not Italian heritage person at all, and we would always, like, mow our lawn, so there were no weeds, that they were gathering them up and cooking with them. It was almost witchcraft.
I I can imagine because you could not have picked weeds on my lawn growing up in upstate New York or the suburbs of Detroit because they would have been covered in pesticides.
Oh, well, this is true too. Look at this bottle. How beautiful this is.
Oh, that's stunning. Now that's one that you bought or that you made?
This is one that I bought, and it's called Amaro
Ortiche. Grazie Giacomo. Grazie mille.
Ortichia. Yeah,
Io
yeah,
adesso posso dormire.
yeah.
Now I can sleep tonight.
It's called Amaro Santoni. And again, I picked this up right now because it's actually made with rhubarb. And it's made near Tuscany, near,
Okay.
Florence. So look at the shape of the bottle with these. It's made to look like the Duomo of Florence. It's
Stunning.
beautiful. And these are all the different herbs and roots that go into it. It says rhubarb root,
Nettles.
iris flower,
Thank you.
olive leaf, all these
And
different
also,
things.
usually, I mean, it's somewhat secret, right? Always the exact
Always.
quantity of ingredients. But I think something else to point out is that Amaro, it's not just for the joy of drinking something bitter. I mean, it's also called a digestivo or a digestive, and it
Yes.
truly does help with digestion. And that was one of the things that really hit me when I first started dating my now ex-husband and coming to northern Italy is we would go out and all the Italians would order a black coffee after dinner and then they would have an amaro, a bitter digestive. And I was amazed at how if you drink an amaro like this Braulio after dinner, it really does help with digestion. And I
Eh,
stand
yeah,
by this today that I think Italians are food geniuses in the order in which they eat their meals
yeah.
the and the importance that they place on digestion.
But
Is
in addition to aiding digestion, because there's no doubt about that, I've had the same experience of,
yeah,
you have that little drink. But all these bitter herbs and vegetables and everything are associated historically for centuries, if not a 1,000 years, with detoxifying properties, back
yep,
in medicinal properties, back when we didn't really we didn't have pharmaceuticals yet, that's the way Italians took care of themselves, and it goes on to this day, and it's another cultural thing in restaurants that you mentioned is lots of restaurants, they make their own that they're so proud of.
And rightfully
So,
so. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And not all well, alright, I'm gonna try not to deviate. Not also a lot of grappa, flavored grappa.
Yes, I like grappa.
I'm pouring my favorite Amaro Italian soft drink right now for anybody who's watching and saw the teaser. This is also my son, who is now 14, born and raised in Italy. This is his very favorite soft drink, and it's bitter. And it's called, I don't know if you can see yeah,
Chinotto.
you can see the otto fruit, which is a agrumo
Yeah,
or a citrus fruit.
yeah,
And so this has, I mean, it's sweet from the sugar that's added, but and you can see the color is like this caramely color.
yeah.
And
And he
then
loves that.
he loves it. And it is really bitter.
It is very bitter.
Yeah, shockingly bitter. And I think it's an acquired taste, especially for an American, because I don't think this is controversial. I think American cuisine leans towards the sweet.
Absolutely. I mean, if I had to say one flavor profile per culture, I
Yeah.
would probably say sweet for America, spicy, hot for Mexico, and most definitely, I think the bitter flavor profile is really what characterizes Italian
Yeah.
cuisine and beverages.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's really special. And especially in aperitivo, in like the Italian version of, I hate to compare it to happy hour, but it occurs around
Like
that time.
the
Oh God.
Cincirino or Crodino,
Crodino, exactly.
these little bottles that you get,
Here I have
and
the blonde Crodino, and they're all bitter. If anyone's had an Aperol spritz, which you probably all have now because it's taken over the world.
yeah, but I make it with Campari, another bitter flavor profile, huh?
Oh,
Campari is
so
great.
the other interesting thing is that everything that is toxic to eat is bitter, but not everything bitter is toxic. So
Yeah,
some people theorize that other cultures didn't adopt bitter foods in part because they had experience of the bitterness being toxic.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it does, moving on to the food side, it's the bitter is a complementary flavor enhancer as well. And okay, Lolly, you're the one with the show and tell on the veggie front.
I have found the first Cime di Rapa of the season. I couldn't believe it. When we decided to do the show, I was like, "Oh, what's gonna be in the market?" I mean, of course, like, as I mentioned, you can always get arugula because become a greenhouse crop. But I found Chimichurapa, which is my favorite bitter green,
Mine too.
which typically grows in the South, and it's known for being used in the famous pasta dish, my favorite pasta, orecchiette with cime di rapa. So these are turnip greens. And you can see maybe, okay, they're not like the most beautiful cime di rapa I've ever seen, but you see they have like a little flower, which I think
Yeah,
it shouldn't actually be yellowing, but I might have left it out too long today. But in
right.
any case, that's, I think, the best part, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
And you'll
Yeah.
simmer them with garlic and olive oil and anchovies. And if you like pepperoncino, and it gives this, it's a really, I think it's a light vegetable bitterness, but it's so pleasing with the umami of the anchovies. And then if you have people who will let you add spice, which I don't in my house, so sadly,
Oh,
but
you're
it's
not a
just,
you don't like the pepperoncino so much?
oh, I love it. I think it makes the dish, but my boyfriend and my son are just not spicy people. So
Yeah.
But that
Yeah.
is, I would say for me, that's my very, very top bitter green. And then, of course, very, very famously would be Radicchio, which is this is the only Radicchio I can get right now. I can get these year round. I was talking to my fruttivendolo and he said you can, but of
Yeah.
course later we'll have the more traditional ones, which are even more bitter. And if you slice them thinly, you can saute them and make a really delicious and purpley radicchio risotto.
Yeah, they're great in risotto, and I also have a recipe that I made with, chestnut cream, sizzled pork jowl, and fried
Yes.
sage, and that
Oh, that is gorgeous.
yeah, it is. It's a nice the chestnut cream softens it all out, but it's really lovely, and they're great ravioli with that vegetable as the filling with ricotta.
That
They're
sounds absolutely stunning.
And
Oh,
another I like to and especially when my daughter, who's now 37, when she was a little girl, to get her to eat green vegetables, I made different kinds of gnocchi. So I used to make these broccoli rabe gnocchi with a gorgonzola and sage sauce.
ooh,
So I wanna show you a cookbook,
okay.
and you might be familiar with it.
Let's see.
Written by a British woman, Letitia Clark,
Oh, I
and
know
it's
Letitia Clark.
bitter honey.
She lives in Sardinia, no?
She does,
Yeah. I mean, I
and
don't know her. I
yeah,
know she lives in Sardinia, and Sardinia is one of my favorite places on the planet, so
it is indeed, and so this bitter honey is made with the corbezzolo, which is like a strawberry tree, and I've created a few recipes using that honey, and it truly has that bitter flavor profile,
now
and
that honey is said to have medicinal properties, right? The corbezzolo plant.
yeah, yeah, in fact. Yeah, I mean,
That's
I've
really
seen them also, like, in Puglia, that plant, I picked those little
yeah.
strawberries down in Puglia, but so she picked that title because it really represents the bitter honey, the whole idea that Sardinia is, like, a little bit wild and
A little bit. A
yeah,
lot.
it is. So, yeah, there are lots of foods that we love. I mean, to think of just our coffee, Italians go
Oh,
crazy for their coffee and they're
that is the
shocked because
perfect wrap up.
they want
That is the
that
perfect wrap
bitter,
up.
that intensity, which I adore that.
Right. Right. Do you think coffee is our place to wrap up? What do you want your final parting words on bitter to be?
I guess the one thing I say to a lot of people who don't live here is to embrace these different flavor profiles. And instead of, okay, so I have a test kitchen because I'm finishing up a cookbook. And when we made a couple of the recipes with the bitter honey, the reaction is, it's really bitter, but to
Yeah.
open your mind to embracing this different flavor
Yeah.
profile in combo.
Yeah, it's having an open mind. And I think that what you just mentioned is if I were to suggest to someone who thinks they don't like bitter, I would recommend trying my favorite pasta, which is the orecchiette with cime di Rapa, which
Yeah,
is made in that anchovy base. You kind of melt them
yeah.
with the olive oil and the garlic in the pan. What would you recommend that people try for their if they're not comfortable with bitter and they're not familiar with it? What should they try in Italian cuisine to get a
Well,
flavor for it, if you will?
I would definitely agree. And I think a lot of Americans do like broccoli rabe. This has been Flavor of Italy. Find us on www.flavorofitaly.com and on Substack, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook, always as Flavor of Italy.